The salty air of Cancun, Mexico, usually carries the scent of sunscreen and celebration, a symphony of joy for the thousands of tourists who flock to its shores. But on this particular Tuesday, a different, more metallic scent hung in the air, the scent of fear. It began with a whisper, a shadow moving through a crowd, and it would end with a city holding its breath. The source of this tension was not a cartel war or a tropical storm, but a single, stolen wallet, and the young man who now held the city's darkest secret in the palm of his hand. His name was Mateo, a phantom in the sun-drenched streets. To the tourists, he was just another local boy with a disarming smile, perhaps selling trinkets or offering directions. But his eyes, quick and sharp, saw more than the average person. They saw the slight bulge of a wallet in a back pocket, the momentary distraction of a beautiful sunset, the perfect opportunity. He moved with the grace of a dancer, a ghost in the vibrant tapestry of the tourist island. His life was a series of calculated risks, a game of survival played on the edge of the law. He was good at it. So good, in fact, that no one ever saw him coming. On this fateful day, his target was a man who radiated an aura of untouchable power. Dressed in a crisp linen suit that defied the oppressive humidity, the man was clearly out of place among the shorts and sandals crowd. He was Judge Rafael Vargas, the most powerful and feared judicial figure in the entire state of Quintana Roo. But to Mateo, he was just another mark. A flick of the wrist, a gentle, almost imperceptible bump, and the judge's expensive leather wallet was nestled in Mateo's hand. He melted back into the crowd, the entire exchange lasting no more than 3 seconds. It was a perfect score, or so he thought. Later, in the quiet of his small apartment, far from the glittering hotel zone, Mateo examined his prize. The cash was substantial, enough to live comfortably for a few months. But tucked away in a hidden compartment, something else caught his eye. It wasn't a credit card or a driver's license. It was a small, black USB drive. Curiosity, a pickpocket's most dangerous trait, got the better of him. He plugged it into his old, battered laptop, and his world tilted on its axis. The drive contained a single, heavily encrypted file. After hours of work, using skills he'd picked up in the shadier corners of the internet, Mateo cracked it open. What he saw made the blood freeze in his veins. It was a meticulously kept ledger, detailing a massive corruption scheme. Judge Vargas, the supposed pillar of justice, was at the heart of a network that extorted businesses, manipulated land deals, and laundered millions of dollars for a notorious cartel. The ledger named names, listed dates, and detailed bank transfers. It was a bomb, and Mateo was holding the detonator. This wasn't just evidence. It was the judge's entire criminal empire, condensed onto a tiny piece of plastic and metal. Meanwhile, Judge Vargas had discovered the theft. The loss of money was an annoyance, but the loss of the USB drive was a catastrophe. That drive was his insurance, his leverage, and his damnation all in one. He flew into a controlled, cold rage. He knew he couldn't go to the police. Many of them were on his payroll, but this was a secret too dangerous to share. This had to be handled personally. He would launch his own manhunt, a shadow war in the streets of the city he controlled. The first clue to the thief's identity came from an unexpected source. Mateo's girlfriend, Sofia, worked as a waitress at a high-end beach club. She was innocent, completely unaware of how Mateo really made his living. Worried about his increasingly paranoid behavior since the theft, she confided in a coworker, a friendly bartender. She mentioned that Mateo had been glued to his laptop, obsessing over some strange document he'd found. She spoke of his sudden fear, his insistence on staying indoors, and his wild talk about a powerful, dangerous man. What Sofia didn't know was that the bartender was one of Judge Vargas's many informants, his eyes and ears throughout the city. The information traveled swiftly, whispered over a secure line directly to the judge's private study. A young man, paranoid, in possession of a strange document. The pieces clicked into place. Vargas now had a scent. He unleashed his private army, a collection of ex-military thugs and corrupt off-duty cops who operated entirely outside the law. Their instructions were simple and brutal. Find the boy, retrieve the drive. The boy himself was disposable. The hunt began. Mateo's face, sketched from the bartender's description, was circulated among the city's underbelly. The noose started to tighten. Mateo, a creature of the streets, could feel the shift in the city's rhythm. He saw the same unfamiliar faces in his neighborhood, cars that didn't belong, and the watchful eyes that followed him from the shadows. His instincts screamed at him. He knew they were looking for him. The game had changed. He was no longer the hunter. He was the prey. He grabbed the USB drive, a few bundles of cash, and fled his apartment, disappearing into the sprawling, labyrinthine markets of downtown Cancun. He moved from one cheap motel to another, never staying in one place for more than a night. He was a ghost again, but this time, he was running for his life. The city that had once been his playground had become a cage, with Vargas's men as the ever-watchful zookeepers. He saw them everywhere. A burly man buying fruit who stared a second too long. A pair of men in a parked sedan, their eyes fixed on the entrance to his temporary hideout. The pressure was immense. Sleep was a luxury he could not afford. Every creak of a floorboard, every distant siren, sent a jolt of adrenaline through him. He was trapped. Going to the police was a death sentence. Vargas owned them. Trying to sell the information was equally risky. Who could he trust? He was alone, armed with nothing but his wits and a secret that could get him killed. The weight of it was crushing, the constant, gnawing fear of physical presence. The chase escalated. Vargas's men grew more brazen. They raided his empty apartment, tearing it apart. They leaned on his known associates, their methods brutal and effective. Word on the street was that Judge Vargas was offering a life-changing reward for any information on the boy with the judge's property. Mateo knew it was only a matter of time. He needed to get out of Cancun, out of Mexico. He hatched a desperate plan to board a cargo ship heading for Cuba, a place where Vargas's reach hopefully couldn't extend. On the night of his planned escape, a storm rolled in, blanketing the city in a torrential downpour. The rain offered a sliver of cover. Huddled under the flimsy awning of a closed taco stand, Mateo clutched the small backpack containing the USB drive. The docks were just a few blocks away. He could taste freedom. He peered out into the rain-slicked street, his heart pounding a frantic rhythm against his ribs. He saw his chance, a break in the passing headlights. He pulled his hood low and prepared to run. Just as he stepped out from the shadows, a black SUV without license plates screeched to a halt, cutting off his path. The doors flew open, and two large, imposing figures emerged, their faces grim and set. They moved with a terrifying, predatory efficiency. There was no escape. He was cornered in the narrow alley, the rain plastering his clothes to his skin. One of the men smiled, a chilling, humorless expression. "The judge sends his regards," he said, his voice a low growl. He'd like his property back. Mateo's back hit the cold, wet brick of the wall behind him. The docks, and his hope of survival, were just a stone's throw away, but they might as well have been on the other side of the world. Will Mateo be apprehended by these men, or will he escape and remain a ghost in the city? Find out in the next episode. Like, share, and subscribe for more edge-of-your-seat crime thrills.